Hi friends, welcome back to another episode of Making Things Fun, Cool, and Sexy. In this week's episode, I take you back to the 5th annual AMBayArea Summit where I shared my story at the breakout session on the real reason why I left Hollywood and got into manufacturing. Enjoy! Well, hello and welcome again to the AMBayArea Summit. This is one of my favorite manufacturing events of the year because it's here close to home for me. And if you guys missed it, my name is Christine Hollino. I'm VP of Operations and Business Development at Silicon Valley Elite Manufacturing. And thank you for choosing this breakout session. We're going to go over how to inspire the next generation. So today I'm going to share my journey from Hollywood into manufacturing, some challenges that I've never shared before publicly, and why and how to inspire the next generation. So since I work for my family's business, it's only appropriate that I start off sharing a little bit about my parents and my family. These are my parents and my younger brother. My parents are immigrants from Vietnam, and my father came over here as an international student. He first started working at Georgetown, and then he ended up at San Jose State. Really, really hard worker. When he first came over here, he was a janitor, and then 7-Eleven, baker, and then he got into tech. And once he got into tech, he started off as a technician, and then he moved his way up to software engineer, hardware engineer, and then he got into operations. And this got really interesting because then he started building out factories in Asia to help cut costs. And in 2012, he realized, oh my gosh, we are going to lose all of our manufacturing IP if we continue to offshore. So he did his part. He opened up a machine shop in 2012 in Santa Clara, Silicon Valley Elite Manufacturing, with my baby brother. That's my mother. She's glam, she's beautiful. She was lucky enough to flee the Vietnam War and landed in London first because her father was a diplomat for the US Embassy. And then she really, really wanted to move to America, which she did. And when she first worked here, it was at Macy's. She was working at a makeup counter. And then she started her own business, a travel agency. And then she went back to her roots of beauty with a salon. And this is where I got all of my glam from. Instead of reading the Bible, we would read the National Enquirer and Star magazine. And that's where my obsession and addiction to becoming rich and famous started. So my parents met here in the Bay Area. They got married. They had me and my brother. And growing up, typical Asian family, I had a grandfather who was a doctor, and he really wanted me to become a doctor. I actually didn't spend summers hanging out with friends. I spent my summers studying 2 grades above me because my grandfather wanted me to excel in everything. So 3rd grade summer, he brought home a book on anatomy, and that's when I started to learn about the body, and he really, really wanted me to become a doctor. However, I didn't take that route. I went to San Jose State, and I graduated with a marketing degree. And after I graduated, this is when I went after my dreams of becoming rich and famous. But when I first moved down there, it was not glitzy, it was not glamorous. I first started off doing door-to-door sales, selling internet in a very sketchy neighborhood in LA. Shortly after that, I became a technical recruiter, where I was making over 100 calls a day to engineers. And then finally, I was able to get a more normal job. I was doing sales and marketing at a financial newspaper. And after the 2.5-year mark, I got a little complacent. I'm like, why am I doing this? Like, I'm hiding behind a cubicle. Like, I moved down here for something better. Magically, my cousin called me, and she's like, hey, do you want to be a red carpet reporter? My best friend's sister has a TV show, and she's looking for a replacement. Hello? Of course I took that job, right? So that same evening, I was on the red carpet. I was interviewing celebrities. I thought my dreams had come true. So for several years, that's what I did. I was working at the newspaper. That was my day job. And then on my lunches, after work, on the weekends, I would go interview celebrities. And over the years, I climbed up that Hollywood ladder. And I was invited to bigger movie premieres, bigger events, getting in front of like bigger celebrities, right? So that's me with Matt Damon, Sharon Stone, the Kardashians. Oh my goodness, when I got to meet the Kardashians, it was like heaven to me. That was me and Dr. Oz, and I was on the blue carpet at the Critics' Choice Awards. And as I climbed up this Hollywood ladder, I really, really thought that I had made it. Some celebrities even recognized me because I would interview them so many times. But the reality was, the higher I climbed, the lonelier I became. The emptier I became. I felt super, super unfulfilled. So what did I do? Because I grew up in an Asian household where achieving and good grades was rewarded, I went back to school. I'm like, you know what? Maybe by getting good grades and achieving, maybe that'll fill up this hole. So I had 2 jobs, and after work, I would be at Pepperdine studying my MBA. I graduated with my MBA, and then during this time, I had met this really, really hot guy. Super hot. He was an ex-hockey player, 6'7", handsome, so fun, so exciting. A week after we got together, I realized that he was an alcoholic. And like in all toxic relationships, I decided to stay. I was fixated and determined that I would save him and I would help him and I will do whatever it took to save him from alcoholism. But as the months went by, I realized that it started to spiral even more. It wasn't just alcohol. It turned out that there was weed involved, prescription pills, all this crazy stuff. And one day I forget where exactly, but he's like, Christine, I see like green men and aliens around me. And I'm like, dude, man, what are you on? Like, please, like, be honest with me. Because during this time, I had a psychiatrist, I had a therapy. I was going crazy trying to save this man. And so he confessed to me that he had been smoking meth. Meth, yes. That was my reaction too. So at that point, that was the last straw. I told him, I'm so sorry. I cannot be with you. This is like too crazy for me, and I am mentally no longer stable to be with you. I broke up with him, and I was like, oh, this will make me free. I will be free of all the chaos. 2 months after, I received a devastating phone call. It was the Miami Police Department letting me know that he had overdosed and died. This was the phone call that I was avoiding the whole year that I was with him. And I told the police, I'm like, please call his father to let him know, because I was left as the emergency contact at the hotel that he was staying at. And several hours went by, the police called me back. Sorry, Christine, his dad's not answering. So yep, I made that devastating call to his father to let him know that his son, his only son, who was supposed to be the star hockey player, had overdosed and died. At that point, my life got flipped upside down. I lived with so much guilt. I kept telling myself, had I stayed with him for only 2 more months, maybe I could have saved him. And maybe he would still be alive and all of this guilt wouldn't be on me. But it was a lot for me at this time. And, this too. So I wanted closure really bad. I'm like, okay, I'll get to see him at the funeral. There will be some closure for me. His family comes from a very strict Middle Eastern family, and his father was ashamed. He could not handle the fact that his son had died. There was no funeral. He was cremated, ashes sent to the family's house. I got no closure whatsoever. Again, devastating. Felt so lost. And then I remembered it was the red carpet for Wonder Woman. And in my heart, I was like, this is going to be my last red carpet. This is just too much for me. I need to get away. So what did I do? Packed my bags. I had to get away from family, from friends. I was so ashamed of what was going on. and I left to Asia. I needed answers badly. I just wanted to understand life a little bit more and why all these things were happening to me. And when I was there, I noticed that there were people, and mind you, I went to Bali and Vietnam, third world countries, super poor, not glamorous, not rich, but they were super happy. And I'm like, what is different over here? Why are these people happy? I had it all. I had all the designer stuff. I was hanging out with celebrities. I had money. I had all of that, but I was empty. And then I recognized that they were close to their families. So I knew that it was eventually time for me to move back, to be closer to my family, and maybe I'll be able to be a little bit more happy. But then I realized something when I was over there. I realized that not only was my ex an addict, I too was an addict. So like what I was telling you, my grandfather was a doctor. So growing up, he would give me medicine for everything, from a headache to a sore throat. If I fell, hurt my knee, here, take some medicine. So I normalized medicine to healing. So when I first moved to LA, I had a lot of anxiety. So they gave me Xanax. And then over the time, like I had some backache, so I started taking painkillers. And then Adderall helped me with focusing. But over the years, I started abusing these medications. I maxed out on every single medication. And then I started taking Adderall to stay skinny, to keep up with everyone in Hollywood. Painkillers, I started abusing that because my ex had died and now I needed to numb my emotional pain. And then Xanax, I was taking bars of those to stay calm and to help me sleep. And I never bought any of these drugs off the streets. I had a celebrity doctor. He's like, Christine, just pay me $150 a month. I'll give you my cell phone number. You text me whenever you're out of these prescriptions. I have a good friend who lives in Beverly Hills. That's where I was living. And we'll send you your medication. So every month, I'm out of medication. Hey, doctor, please send me. It's delivered to my apartment. And even when I was in Asia, they sent these medications to me. And I was like, wow. I recognized I had a problem when I was in Asia. And I knew that I wanted to go back to my family. So I was searching for rehab centers in Asia, in Vietnam. I'm like, rehab, please, please. No. Even when I went to a pharmacy in Asia, they're like, how do you have these strong medications? They were astonished, right? So I had to make that difficult decision, go back to my family, again, packed my bags, and confess to my family that I had a problem. Not only did I just have to face a death of my ex, I too had this problem that I had to deal with. And when I first moved back, they were, they had a feeling that I had a problem, right? I was super, super skinny at the time. They knew I was depressed. And they're like, okay, let's check you in. You pick your rehab, we'll support you. So I checked into Betty Ford Center. And when I first checked in, the admin office, they were super happy to see me. They're like, an Asian woman. I was a statistic. Yeah. They're like, we never, ever get to see an Asian woman in rehab. And they shared with me, Asian people, and I know this for a fact because I come from an Asian family, we don't share our dirty secrets. We're supposed to be perfect. We don't have any problems, right? So Betty Ford, they were extremely happy to see me go in. And the first 11 days, you guys, it was hell for me. Excruciating body aches, headaches, emotional pain, especially like all the shame and guilt I felt, right? Like it was embarrassing. It was so embarrassing that I was pointing the finger, oh, my ex had a problem. But the reality was I too had a problem. But 6 weeks later, it was the most amazing time in there. I met some awesome people. I learned how to be sober. I learned how to deal with emotions without popping pills. It was difficult, but it was a great experience. So after 6 weeks, checked out, moved back home with my parents. And at this point, it was like a complete blank canvas for me. I had no idea what I would do. I couldn't go back to Hollywood because there's way too many people and things that would get me in trouble again. I felt ashamed. I felt like a failure to myself, to my friends, to my family. Like, I just had no idea what else to do. And when I was in rehab, the psychiatrist told me, Christine, it's going to take you about 2 years for your brain to recalibrate, to be normal again. And so I'm like, who is going to want to hire me? Who is going to want me? Luckily, my family, they have a machine shop. So I was laying at home, depressed, blah, blah, blah. My dad and my brother's like, come out to the shop and help us. We need some help. And this is when the manufacturing transformation occurred. But when I first worked here, it wasn't all rainbows and unicorns. I faced more challenges. When I first moved back, I still looked very, very Hollywood. I had blonde hair, dressed very provocatively, and here I am in my dad's machine shop. He told me, you're not allowed to talk to any of our engineers, any of our customers. No one is going to take you seriously, right? I wasn't technical. He's like, you don't know what you're talking about. No, stay away from my customers. You just stay in your office and you figure out the operations for me. Figure out the schedules. Look at the POs, what's open, right? And yeah, I just felt like I did not fit in there. But because I am a very ambitious and driven individual, I took that on as a challenge. I'm like, Dad, I think you're wrong. I think that people are going to respect me no matter what I look. But before I could get there, I became really basic. I dyed my hair dark. I wore basic clothes. And I dressed pretty casual, right, to kind of fit into Silicon Valley. But during that time, I shadowed my dad and my brother. I'm like, I'm going to learn everything I need to learn so that I could gain the respect. I love talking to people. I mean, I was on the red carpet. Like, it's just me. I love sales, all of that. And the psychiatrist in rehab was correct. About 2.5 years later, I realized, I'm like, wow, I know this business model. I know what the engineers need. I know how to operate this whole thing. I'm like, wow, I think I have a better understanding of this machine shop. So then as I gained the confidence, I wore a little bit more makeup. I dressed a little bit more flashy, right? Because I had the confidence already. And then I slowly talked to an engineer here or there. And then about 3.5 years later, I was doing a deep dive into manufacturing and the trends. And then I learned about metal 3D printing. And I was like, Dad, this is going to be the future. We need to stay innovative. We need a printer, blah, blah, blah. He's like, we don't have the demand for it yet. That same week, magically, Velo 3D, they are the largest metal 3D printing company here in the Valley. And they came to us. They're like, we need parts really, really fast. Can you guys support us? And I was like, Dad, this is an awesome company. Trust me, we need to support them. We need to support them. So my dad's like, okay, fine, let's just start small with them. And during this time at Velo 3D, it was really awesome. They had already invented one printer, right? But SpaceX and Elon Musk demanded them to make a larger printer. So this was during the R&D phase. And it was so, so much fun. So why am I mentioning this? 3.5 years, this was when it was a pivotal moment in my life. Because these engineers and these customers, they no longer emailed my father. They emailed me. I became a technical expert, even dressed as Christine, even dressed as this individual, right? So my dad was wrong that I would never gain respect because I was too fashionable. And 4 years after I started, I looked into our books and I was like, wow, not only am I technical, I realized I increased our revenue and sales by 5.5 times since joining. So that transformation was awesome. And here, I'll show you. That was me on the red carpet with my blonde hair. And at this point, I thought I had made it. I made it onto the Golden Globe Awards. But inside, I was extremely, extremely empty. That's me, just last year, in front of our new 5-axis CNC, and in front of a turbo pump that Velo 3D had printed, and we assembled it, we post-processed it, And this is fulfilling. This is what makes me so happy, right? Being able to help SpaceX make rockets, like, come on, like this, like, I could dress up like this, like today we have an awards ceremony. I get to be MC and I get to dress up. Like I could do both, right? So I'm super, super happy where I'm at. And some more accolades I would like to share. I've been promoted to VP of Operations and Business Development at Silicon Valley Elite Manufacturing. I'm a board member here at AMBayArea, also the lead for Women in Manufacturing's peer group. I'm a board member at CMTC, an ambassador for Women in 3D Printing Silicon Valley chapter. Just last year, I was Silicon Valley Business Journal's 40 Under 40, and I could proudly say I was the only manufacturer on that list. 4 months ago, I started a podcast, and now I am no longer interviewing A-list celebrities. I'm interviewing A-list manufacturers, such as a few people here today, and it's to inspire more women and the next generation to get into manufacturing. And the biggest accolade out of everything I've shared, I am now engaged and sober. John over there, we met in manufacturing. We actually met at Velo 3D, and he is just so amazing. He's a producer of mine for the podcast. He's now helping us out at the family business, so it all worked out. So why am I sharing all of this? Why did I share this crazy journey, right? It's to show that it's possible to change careers. My father started that business when he was 58 years old. Completely shifted, right? He was working on medical device and he's like, nope, I need to do something different. So at 58 years old, instead of retiring, he opened up his own business. It's also to share that manufacturing is a very, very welcoming industry. For me, right, like I didn't fit in, but as I gained that confidence, I fit right in. And above all else, it's for a bigger mission and purpose. It's a bigger calling that I've had, right? And it's to help bring manufacturing back to America. And it's a huge undertaking. But before we could bring anything back to America, we need to learn how to keep manufacturing in this country. How are we going to keep manufacturing in California? And how can we keep manufacturing in the Bay Area? You guys are business owners in California. It is not easy to stay here, right? And you guys are all sitting here probably for a bigger calling and for a bigger reason. You guys haven't left to Arizona or Texas where you're getting tax cuts for moving out there. So we need to come together collectively and figure out how to help bring manufacturing back to America, how to keep it here. And manufacturing is a multiplier industry. This is like awesome data. I was like, wow. People need to know more about this. So one manufacturing job creates 2.5 non-manufacturing jobs. What do I mean by this? So let's say Santa Clara, that's where we're at. We have a lot of machine shops in that area. These machinists, they need to eat. They need to buy things. So local restaurants, local stores, like we are providing other jobs to other businesses because we provide jobs for our employees there. But on the inverse, when we lose one manufacturing job, we're basically losing 3.5 jobs in the community. How many open manufacturing jobs do you guys think there are in this country in 2024? A ton is right. 583,000 open manufacturing jobs. That means no one wants to take these jobs. The next generation, they don't want to get into manufacturing. They think it's dirty, dark, and dangerous still. And why is it so important that the next generation needs to be inspired to get into this industry? Because in 2030, there's going to be 4 million manufacturing open jobs. And of those 4, 2.1 are going to be unfilled because, again, the next generation are not interested to get into manufacturing. As a country, our economy will lose out on $1 trillion if we cannot fulfill these jobs and keep manufacturing in this country. So I was very curious myself. What are the next generation interested in? So while creating this presentation, I took a deep dive. I went onto ChatGPT and I asked, What's the next generation interested in? So here's the list. Technology, sustainability and renewable energy, healthcare and biotech, entertainment and media, entrepreneurship and startups, sustainable fashion and lifestyle, space exploration and aerospace, AI and data science. Yes, manufacturing is not on the list. However, manufacturing is within this list, right? So it's our job to make manufacturing a little bit more fun, a little bit more cool, a little bit more sexy, so that the next generation wants to get into this. As you saw those students out there, they're working on some really fun and cool things with those robotics. So we do have hope, you guys. I know I dropped some bad news about manufacturing and like all the open jobs, but there is good news. We just need to come together and figure out a solution on how to make these changes. I'll share a case study. Castem is a Japanese company. They do casting over there. And they shared with me that their average age of employees is only 35 years old. So young. They even said that one of their, they recently had a job online and they had 1,000 applicants. I'm like, what are you guys doing so differently? They have on-site childcare, so more women work there because then they can have families and work there. It's pretty awesome. They said that they have 50% men, 50% women who's working, and the women are actually pouring metal in the foundry, so it's a really cool environment. But it's because they have a division that they make really fun, cool, and sexy parts. They make anime, they make like golden bananas. It's all like funky, weird things, but it's attracting the next generation, right? So I know we can't all make like weird trinkets like that, but we can adjust our marketing a little bit so that it's a little bit more fun, cool, and sexy, so that the next generation want to get into this industry. So today I'm going to share with you 4 ways on how to inspire the next generation. As I had just mentioned, social media and marketing. This is super, super important, right? The next generation, they are on Instagram, Facebook. Some of them are on LinkedIn. So I highly, highly recommend you to just create content. And I know most of you probably have smaller businesses and you're like, where do I start? I don't know what to do. My recommendation, just post anything at this point. Anything is better than nothing, so that we could show the next generation that it's not dark, dirty, and dangerous, right? There's a cool side to manufacturing. And there's a 2-prong, like you win 2 times here. Number 1, when you post on social media, you inspire the next generation. And number 2, you also get some sales out of it, right? Because I post all the time on LinkedIn, I'm always talking about bringing manufacturing back to America, bring manufacturing back to America. Recently, we got a lead. Someone had a friend who had a project where he wanted to bring manufacturing back to America. Who did they contact? Us. We were top of mind. Whatever you post out there, people are reading and they'll remember you by it. And I'll show you some examples. You know, like, don't be afraid of posting on social media. It could be like a cool picture like this where coolant's hitting a part, or it could just simply be taking pictures of a part. Like whatever, just post. And then as you get used to things, you'll learn how to do things better. Mentorship and apprenticeships. These are super important so that the next generation can be hands-on and learn more. This was me and Pamela Kahn at CMTA, and she is fabulous. She also worked for her father's machine shop, and now it's blossomed into a really amazing company. She's a great leader, and I was lucky enough to gain her as a mentor at CMTA when I went there, I think 1 or 2 months ago. And she also spoke on mentorship, and she told me that not only does she like to be a mentor to help the next generation, but it's also because she gets to learn so much from the next generation, from her mentees. And she told me she's super excited to have me as a mentee because she wants to learn how to create a podcast. You see, like everybody gets to win when we teach one another things. Ambassador programs. So AMBayArea has an amazing ambassador program, and Linda is really active in it. So am I. She inspired me to go to schools to speak. So these ambassador programs, we have a list of high schools, trade schools, teachers who are seeking manufacturers like us to go in front of their classroom and share what we do to inspire them to get into manufacturing. I recently spoke in San Jose at Independence High School, and I had a blast. I brought in like metal 3D printed parts, showed them machine parts, showed them different options, tell them like what cool things we get to do. Like we recently manufactured art that's sitting on the moon, right? And they're like, whoa, like we want to be a part of that, right? And it's just learning how to like using our language to excite them, you know? And Mark Martin is our something really cool came out of that. After I spoke, 2 of the students wanted to be interns at our companies, right? So if you're seeking internships, what better way than going to these schools and talking to them? And you guys heard the numbers, right? The next generation, they're not in manufacturing because they don't know enough about manufacturing. How are they gonna know if we don't go out there and show them what we do in real life, right? And social media is awesome and all, but things in real life matters so much more. So I highly, highly recommend you, if you have some time, volunteer for our ambassador program. Mark Martin is the head of our ambassador program. If you see him during happy hour, reach out to him. Last but not least is diversity. And when I say diversity, it is not only skin color or gender. I'm talking about age. I'm talking about thought, right? The next generation, they want to go somewhere where they're included. That word inclusive is being used a lot, right? So when they go into a company, they feel like, oh, this person kind of looks like me or whatnot. They feel more active and they want to explore more in that company. And also, you'll get a lot more innovation if you hire diverse people. So I shared with you the 4 ways how to inspire the next generation. And recently, I learned that manufacturing is very, very, they taught me the numbers, right? They're like, Christine, so back to the story of the project that wants to come back to America, right? He's like, we are bringing back a portion of our business back to America for tax incentives, but we're gonna lose a lot of money by bringing this portion back because it's really expensive to manufacture over here. And I'm like, okay. He's like, yeah, in Silicon Valley, it's about $65 to $85 an hour, right? And he's like, in China, it's $8 to $10. And this is not hourly wage. This is job shop, right? This is like overhead and all of that. And I was like, China, wow, that's cheap. But I thought it would have been cheaper. Vietnam, $4 to $5 an hour. And he's like, Christine, I don't even want to tell you what India is. I'm like, no, please tell me. I'm very curious. 50 cents to $1 an hour. How are we going to compete with this? It hurt me. I was saddened. My heart sank. I'm like, how did we get to this point? And I'll share with you some other data. So I'm going to Harvard Business School's OPM program in a few weeks, and they had us read some case studies. So I read 2 on globalization. First one was on Singapore, and how Singapore became a first world country from a third world country. I read it, and it was through manufacturing. They had a free trade zone. They made it so easy for companies to come in, make things, build things. And then they became a booming economy in Asia. Second case study, it was in the 1800s. There was a lot of war going on. Britain was superior at the time. They were the elite. And they kept buying things from other countries. They depended on other countries, right? Sounds a little familiar right now. And they were a little too cocky, a little too confident. They're like, oh, we're superior. We are the best. No one could beat us. Well, they forgot about America. Ford came out. We learned how to manufacture cheaper and faster. We kind of wiped them out. But you guys, have we gotten too cocky and confident? Where's our innovation? I could speak for myself. When I heard the news about those hourly rates, I'm like, wait, we can't compete with those pricing. Like, we need to be way more efficient. Where's the robotics? Where's the automation, right? And to be honest, when I look in our machine shop, there isn't enough innovation. Oh, we got a 5-axis, but still, that's not going to save us that much money. So we really need to come together and figure out how we can make some changes to help bring manufacturing back to America. And like I said, before we could bring anything back, how do we keep it here? If it's so cheap to manufacture elsewhere, what are we going to do? This is a huge, massive problem. And I'll leave you with this. American manufacturing needs each and one of us to make a difference. Make some tweaks in our business. Do something, because we really, really need the help right now. My family, they came over here as immigrants. The land of opportunity is what my mom always claims. Freedom, all of that. Well, I want to continue living in this amazing country where there's a booming and thriving economy. So let's come together as a group and figure out how to help bring manufacturing back to America. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, thank you.
So there you have it, the real reason why I left Hollywood and got into the industry. If you like this episode, please like and subscribe to my channel, and remember to share it with your friends and family so we could get more people interested in manufacturing. You heard it earlier, we need more people and the next generation in our industry more than ever. If you or you know someone who would like to be on the show, please email me or comment below. My contact info is in the description. Until next time, keep creating, keep innovating, and always remember to keep it fun, cool, and sexy.